Hello and welcome to the first podcast of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ICSAN. Today, I'm blessed to have with me our very amiable and distinguished President and Chairman of the Governing Council. She is the first female President and Chairman of the Governing Council, and her name is Mrs. Fumi Ekundayo, FCIS. You're very welcome, Madam.
Thank you for having me, and congratulations on this significant milestone of having the first podcast for our institute.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Under your administration, it's very easy to have innovative ideas flow. So before we start, the podcast is just a fireside chat with the president to hear her thoughts and views on certain matters. But I would like to introduce her formally to those of us or those of you that do not know her personally. Mrs. Fumi Ekundayo is a lawyer, a chartered secretary and administrator, corporate governance professional, chartered stockbroker, and capital market practitioner. She schooled in Nigeria and did her university at the University of Lagos, where she obtained her Bachelor of Laws in 1995 and was called to the bar in 1996. During her National Youth Service in 1997, Fumi combined work with studies as she returned to the University of Lagos to pursue her master's in law, which she obtained in 1998. With a career spanning over 25 years, Fumi spent close to a decade in law practice and thereafter worked at different times in the Nigerian capital market space, starting with the then now Asset Management and Trustees Limited, I beg your pardon, UBA Trustees Limited, now United Capital Trustees Limited, and Sky Trustees Limited, now STL Trustees Limited. Fumi was appointed as the Managing Director, CEO of STL Trustees Limited, then Sky Trustees Limited in the year 2010, and the company has evolved into a market leader commanding growth in profitability, business size, pedigree, and brand value over the years. For her professional and organizational astuteness, Fumi has also had the honor of receiving the Trustees Company CEO of the Year award multiple times, from the Business Day Banks and other financial institutions awards, and the Nigerian Finance Innovation Awards, and then the Marketing Edge Awards. Fumi is an alumna of the prestigious Harvard Business School, the Lagos Business School, the Chief Executive Program, and the IESE Business School, Barcelona, Spain. She is a member of the Nigerian Bar Association and, of course, a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, where she is now our president and chairman of the Governing Council. Fumi made history when she was appointed the first female vice president of this institute in the year 2023, and thereafter the president. Fumi is also a past president of the Association of Corporate Trustees of Nigeria, and she has served in different capacities and at different times at the Capital Market Committee of the Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, including as a member Technical Committee on National Savings Strategy, member National Investor Protection Fund, and member Rules and Compliance Committee. For her commitment to the industry, she was recognized and awarded by the Securities and Exchange Commission for her contribution to the development of the Nigerian capital market. She has also served as a member of the Lagos State Technical Committee on Real Estate Regulations. Fumi has served as an independent non-executive director on the board of Law Union and Rock Insurance, now Tangerine General Insurance, and she is a non-executive director on a board of some other corporate entities. Ladies and gentlemen, again, I welcome our very distinguished president, Mrs. Fumi Ekundayo. Thank you again for joining us for this first podcast. So it's a fire chat, and Madam President, we just want to hear your views on very few things in the short time we have together. You have been doing a lot since you became the president to change the face of ICSAN since you came into office as first female president. If I ask you to share everything, we would not end this podcast. So in a nutshell, can you just summarize the things you have done and achieved since you became president?
Once again, I want to thank you very much for having me. I feel truly honored to be the first person that would grace this podcast, even as we debut. I'm very delighted to be here, and I thank you once again for all the innovative things that your committee, the Publicity and Advocacy Committee, have been doing.
Thank you, ma'am.
So yes, indeed, it has been an interesting journey. Our administration is a few weeks shy of being a year old.
Yes, in July.
Yes, precisely in July. So I would say that the journey has been extremely interesting, very fulfilling and impactful, with the support of the Governing Council and, of course, the commitment and dedication of all ICSA members. We've been able to achieve some modest milestones, and I'm going to just speak to a few of them.
Yes, please.
Okay. So, we're talking about corporate governance and how we can further deepen that conversation. And for us at ICSA, we took a giant step in the trajectory of providing education and knowledge within that corporate governance space with the signing of MOU with the NILS, Nigerian Institute of Legislative and Democratic Studies,
Wow.
in conjunction with University of Benin. And I am very pleased to note that we did not only sign that MOU, we have actually taken significant steps since after signing the MOU sometime in November to ensure that things kick off in terms of commencing, the program proper at the NILS. Recently, the portal was opened at the University of Benin to enable people to register. So you can have your MSc in governance, right, under the auspices of this arrangement. So we're really proud of that achievement.
Has ICSAN ever had something like this before?
We've had different MOUs with other entities, yes, but in terms of an MSc program, this is the very first.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. So we also recently, again, when we talk about corporate governance, we honestly feel that there is a lot to be done penetrating that same promotion of corporate governance within the public sector.
Yes.
And of course, you can see what the FRC is also doing with the exposure draft on the governance code for public sector entities. So we're really delighted also that recently as earlier this year, we're able to sign a memorandum of understanding as well with the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies at Courageous NIPS. And, that was another significant one for us because, again, with the MOUs that we've been able to sign, we didn't just leave it. There's that tendency of, we've signed the MOU, what next? But
yes.
No, we are really hitting the ground running with those MOUs. And I can tell you that with the MOU, with the NIPS as well, we've already set up a joint committee of both the NIPS and ICSAN to work out the modalities for implementation of the MOU.
Okay.
So we're also very proud about that. We think it's a very good opportunity to, again, penetrate the public sector with a view to influencing, policymakers and all of that.
Okay.
Another good development that we've had is the signing of the MOU. It's actually a linkage agreement with the Caleb University. Okay. So part of our strategy towards increasing our numbers for membership is to have linkages with, universities, with tertiary institutions. And recently signed one with Caleb University. So that's also a good one for us. The Institute has had a relationship with the Oyo State government in the past, and that relationship sort of went a bit cold. We've been able to reopen, that relationship recently through the office of the head of service, and we've made significant impact as well in that area, particularly in the area of capacity building, right, for senior civil servants in the state. So I think those are some really nice updates in terms of external engagements and collaborative efforts with public sector and also the private sector alike.
Yes.
In line with our member-centric campaign, if you remember, we had said that we want to continue to have good engagement with our members with a view to filling their pain points and, rubbing minds on how to continue to improve the profession. So in line with that, and of course with the brilliant hard work of your committee, again, we had the very first presidential town hall meeting in January. February. Yes, in February. And of course, we had a lot of insightful conversation with our members, and it was quite revealing. And already we're looking at taking certain steps, from the feedback that we got from that engagement.
Your slogan again was your ICSAN, my ICSAN,
our ICSAN.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that remains our slogan,
Yes,
because we're all in this together. Another important development that has happened since my administration came on board is okay, let me start this way. I'm sure you know that the ICSAN Towers has a very special place in the heart of all of us.
Yes.
And of course, there have been a lot of effort over the years to, kickstart the project. A significant milestone during this period is the approval that was received from the Lagos State government for the building project.
Okay.
For us, that's a big one. It's a significant step towards commencing, the building project. So that's really very good for us as well. We received the approval earlier this year. Okay, so in terms of penetration strategy, as ICSAN, our name is Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria.
Yes.
So we really would love to continue to penetrate different states and different jurisdictions. And in line with that strategic positioning, we were able to, for the first time in the history of ICSAN, to penetrate the northern Nigeria.
Wow.
Yes. So we're able to inaugurate the Kaduna State chapter sometime in late last year, and it was a very the state was very welcoming to the ICSAN brand. In fact, following the inauguration of that chapter, we've had some strategic, handshake already with the state. We've had to organize a capacity building on governance and administration for senior, civil servants in the state. And we believe that this is just the beginning of, greater collaboration that we'll be having with the state. Okay. CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission, also were able to submit our curriculum on the insolvency practice. ICSAN happens to be one of the few professional bodies that is authorized to examine and also certify individuals or professionals who wish to, practice in that insolvency practice area.
Okay.
Exactly. And we're able to submit a robust curriculum to the Corporate Affairs Commission so that we'll be very much ready to take on those who want to play within that space.
Okay.
Yeah. Talking about our sectoral groups, because again, we want to be able to penetrate every sector. We've been doing, a lot of our sectoral groups have been doing a lot of great work. We had an engagement with the
energy sector,
Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, and it was a very fantastic engagement. That engagement has also led to us being invited by the commission to come and facilitate on governance during the recently held National Judicial Council capacity building that they organized. So, we are really blazing the trail to ensure that we continue to, engage parties that we believe would be able to influence deeper discussions and deeper conversations within a larger universe on corporate governance issues. So I would just like to stop there.
Wow. You have said honestly, and what struck me about most of the things you said is, for the first time, and you haven't even been there for 1 year.
Almost.
So when you say blazing the trail, you're on top of that. Thank you very much, Madam President. While you were speaking, you mentioned something about the CGIN bill that's before the National Assembly, and I know it's part of the project to, let me say, I don't know what it is about. So could you just tell us what that's about?
Okay. So the CGIN bill project is also very dear to our hearts as an institute. And I'll tell you why. The global trend now is tilting towards entrenching corporate secretaries as who they really are and the role that they really do play.
Yes.
The role has evolved over the years, over the decades. So what our members do essentially right now is governance, right? The entire gamut of governance. And you would recall that even though we're happy that this mindset is changing, to a great extent, to a large extent, but then again, what can we do to also ensure that we take it to the next level? Yes. So you find the trend with similar institutes like ours globally, changing from the charter secretary status to governance professionals, just so that the entire space and the entire knowledge and the entire capabilities of our members is well captured in the name that we're there. So sometimes the word secretaries confuses a lot of people. Yes. Even knowledgeable people, they're a bit confused. They just feel, maybe these are stenographers or confidential secretaries, without any prejudice to the those who actually play those functions. But we all know that what the charter secretary does is a lot much more.
Yes.
When you're talking about compliance, you're talking about risk management, you're talking about governance across board. There's just so much that our members do right now and that they are skilled to actually do. So that name change is very important to also depict, what our members do and what they have the capabilities to do. And like I said, the trend is global. Even our SY parent body, the UK body, has since changed their names as well to Chartered Governance Institute. Same with New Zealand, same with Canada, and so many other institutes of the same background. So we found that it's about time that we also change our name. And it will also be a good opportunity to change to amend and upgrade our many decades, about 3 decades old acts, enabling acts, right? So also bring in some contemporary current day business situations in, acknowledging what the corporate governance professional does.
So you've taken my next question out of me. I was going to say, what is your administration and council doing to change the impression that charter secretaries are just secretaries? We are secretaries, but of a different level. But I think you've spoken about that a bit. Do you want to just touch more on that?
Well, basically, like I have said, we are deepening advocacy efforts. I think that's a very, very important thing to do, to create the awareness and to ensure that the gospel of corporate governance is well entrenched everywhere, in every system. Because again, everything rises or falls on governance, right? So we're doing that. We're doing the name change, which we believe would also give a more succinct appellation to what our people do. Because when people hear governance, they can really now equate to someone that is a very important and strategic part of any entity, of any system, right? So the name change is there. We have advocacy programs across board, like what we have with the Eco FM. We distill, issues around corporate governance. We would break down the NCCG, 2018. We pick, very cogent provisions and expatiate on them and, distill down so that the average person can understand, what corporate governance is all about. And also we have publications where we give the right, narrative about what the institute is all about. And I must say that this podcast is another effort, right, at advocacy, and to ensure that we'll continue to tell the story of how we should pay attention to good corporate governance across board.
Across board. So you keep saying across board, across board.
Yeah.
So can you just tell us the sectors in which a corporate chartered secretary can work in?
Okay.
What sector? Are we limited to any particular sector, or is it open to all sectors? Or let's hear from the president.
Okay. So from the deep and rigorous knowledge base of our members and the kind of skills and training that they're exposed to, they are able to function well, effectively and efficiently within any sector, be it private, be it public, be it not-for-profit, right through any spectrum. And I tell you, the kind of value that charter secretaries bring on board wherever they find themselves is enormous, because we have a curriculum covering risk management, financial management, strategy, compliance, just name it, public administration. So we have a very robust curriculum. And in fact, ICSAN qualification is a multidisciplinary, qualification. So that helps our members to actually be able to function effectively anywhere they find themselves.
There used to be a notion that only lawyers could be chartered secretaries. And you're a lawyer, and I'm a lawyer, so.
But I can also tell you that we have many of our members who are non-lawyers.
Okay.
Right? We may say that lawyers form the majority.
Okay.
You'll be right to say that, but that's not to mean that we also don't have accountants, and other professions. In fact, our number 3, the honorary treasurer, is a chartered accountant. And we have so many other accountants who are our members. So really, that's just a perception, out there. Yes, because of the fact that most lawyers end up being company secretaries. That's why you have it that majority of our members are actually lawyers. But we have so many other professions as well. That are our members. Okay.
So in line with thank you so much, Madam President. In line with your vision for the Institute, we've noted that, especially during your administration, there's a lot of relationship. You've mentioned SEC a few times, you've mentioned CAC a few times, you've mentioned FRC a few times. Is there a strategy for these collaborations, or is it just by chance?
It can't be by chance.
Okay.
Because really nothing is by chance. You have to be strategic, and you have to have a focus of why you're doing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So for us, most of the regulators, the Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Corporate Affairs Commission, the NGX, we see them as our collaborators in the corporate governance, narrative, the promotion of best practices, and they see us as such as well. And essentially, we have, besides having a collaborative, relationship, we also have a very cordial relationship. For instance, I'll just give you a few instances. For the FRC, when they are releasing the exposure drafts on any of the codes, on a lot of policy issues, they actually seek the input of ICSAN. And we really value that, because it enables us to also, provide our comments and insights and recommendations. Same for the Corporate Affairs Commission. In fact, I'd like to give an interesting update, right, regarding the Corporate Affairs Commission. You would recall during the peak of COVID, when there was a bit of challenge around PLCs that had their AGMs, annual general meetings, falling within that period. And of course, there was COVID.
No gathering.
Gathering, lack of gathering and all of that. And then the CAC came up with guidelines, right, for PLCs. And the guidelines stipulated that there's attendance by proxies, right? And that those AGMs should be limited to just ordinary business. ICSAN held one of its webinars during that period. And this issue was, we invited the DG of the commission at that time, and he attended, and it was very, attentive to the recommendations that ICSAN had to make at that webinar. And we're very pleased to realize that a couple of weeks after, there was an amended version, of that, of those guidelines, taking into consideration most of the suggestions and recommendations by ICSAN. So we really do have a very robust relationship. And don't forget, we are partners, in continuing to improve corporate governance everywhere in Nigeria so that we can have better outputs to drive economic development. I'll say this on a final note for regulatory interface. I think our Governance Practitioners Day, I don't know if last year or year before, I think it was last year, 2023, we actually had all four, those four that I mentioned, regulators being panelists,
wow,
doing that engagement. And it was really insightful. It was very, useful to our members. They were able to ask germane questions that were their own pain points, and the regulators were able to, give us some insights and share ideas on how things could be better done, particularly with regards to intervention of technology, right? Having to file, using technology and all of that. And they were able to clarify a lot of issues for us. So yes, we do have a very fantastic relationship with most of the regulators.
No, so
ICSAN is a member on the board of a couple of them, by the way.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I think you've. How do you know the next question I was going to ask when you were rounding up? Because I was going to ask you about technology.
Okay.
So these days, you have to choose the course you study carefully, because you hear in the next 10 years, in the next 15 years, some courses are going to disappear. And the technology has taken over. And then you took technology out of my mouth.
Okay.
So my question is, with all this talk about disappearing professions, should we be in fear that our profession as chartered secretaries, governance professionals, or governance practitioners is among the profession likely to disappear?
Extinction. Okay. Very good question, and very, very deep question, I would say. So governance itself corporate governance is the systems or processes by which an entity is governed and controlled and managed.
Yes.
So essentially, you're talking about a profession that will always be there.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Technology, and we are very mindful of that as an institute. And you would find, if you go and check a lot of our recent, webinars and programs, we focus on technological issues and their impact on our profession. So we're actually also looking inwards and, sensitizing ourselves. So what technology can do for us as governance professionals and charter secretaries is to help us to enhance what we do.
Okay.
But whether the advent of technology would make the profession go into extinction is almost impossible. You know why? You still need a human being to coordinate people, to coordinate processes, even if that human being is also using the aid of technology to achieve that. You see the difference?
Yes.
So members would always be in high demand. And, globally and also, domestically, a lot of corporate entities are getting more aware of good corporate governance practices. So essentially, people would always want to enhance, their corporate governance standards and practices, and our members would always be on hand to be able to help those entities to do things better.
Thank you so much, Madam President. Final note, I've heard you talk about similar institutes in Canada, Australia. Is there an umbrella body that puts everybody together?
Yes, there is an umbrella body that puts everybody together, and it's called the Corporate Secretaries International Association.
Okay.
Right? Based in Hong Kong. The CSIA for short. CSIA is the global body and global voice for corporate secretaries and governance professionals. So they set global governance standards, and they have membership. It has the membership from about 4 different continents, over 50,000 members.
Wow.
Practicing governance professionals.
Yeah.
So yes, indeed, ICSAN is a very strong member of the CSIA.
Madam President, you're being very humble, because I have been reliably informed that you were elected the honorary treasurer of that global body. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And very recently, I understand your vice president was also given an award. Could you talk to us a bit about that?
Okay, so she was not given an award. She won an award that
Wow.
was highly competitive.
Okay.
Just to put that, into context. So
Okay.
yes, for the very first time, the CSIA deemed it fit to organize the Global Governance Awards, to recognize and appreciate members who are contributing extensively within the, corporate secretaryship and governance space. And they called for entries and nominations across the different jurisdictions. There was a body of judges, also cut across, different jurisdictions. And we are very proud and pleased that our own very VP, who is the company secretary of MTN Nigeria, Mrs. Utopana FCIS, won the highly coveted and highly competitive nomination in our category as a company secretary of the year, right? Global company secretary of the year. So indeed, we're really proud of that. That we brought that home is also rubs off on our nation, right? And it rubs off on Africa. So we're really happy that ICSAN was able to achieve that. And during the very first, of such globally organized awards.
Okay, so if I heard you right, this is an award cutting across 4 continents and over 50,000 members.
Right.
And not only did Africa win it, Nigeria won it. Not only did Africa and Nigeria win it, ICSAN brought it home.
Absolutely.
So I guess the congratulations to ICSAN.
To all of us and to Nigeria.
Yes. Thank you very much, Madam President. As we wrap up, it would be very unfair if, with everything you've said, the impact of the profession we practice in both the public sector and the private sector, and the fact that it's going to remain a going concern. It's not going to become extinct with technology, but it will improve with technology. I would please ask for you what would you say to young professionals that are just starting or are in the middle and are wondering what next, or what to do? What would be your parting advice to them?
Excellent. And thank you for giving me this opportunity, because every chance I get to also say a thing or two to the upcoming ones is always a very welcome one for me. So the profession has a beautiful future. It has a bright future. But we as a professionals, either, the mature ones, let me put it that way, and I use that word loosely, and the upcoming ones, the younger professionals, there is one thing that stands sure, and that is the level of competence and professionalism and integrity. I'll put that tripod, right? Competence, integrity, and professionalism. You can't run away from that in everything you do. You see, the ability of people to trust you and trust your advice as a governance professional or a charter secretary is very key. And that is what gives them the confidence to rely on your advice to the board or to the system, right? So that is extremely key. So upcoming ones specifically should keep improving themselves. They should keep developing themselves. They should keep enhancing their knowledge, right? We have a whole lot of opportunities, even within ICSAN. We have a yearly capacity building plan every year that we, release to our members at the beginning of every year. So even if it's just target maybe one MC, I would minimum one MCPE this year. I must do minimum this, try and continuously, because at those fora, we usually discuss emerging opportunities. We discuss emerging issues within the profession. So there's no how you won't be able to take away one thing or the other that would also help you to continue to improve, where you work, or even if you're practicing on your own, it will keep helping you to improve in what you do. So of course, professionalism, competence, and integrity are very key. Rome was not built in a day. So I would also advise patience and attention to detail. Be focused as to where you're going. Things will distract you along the line, right? But you must make up your mind not to be distracted and remain focused. And like I said, Rome was not built in a day. Don't be too much in a hurry. Follow the process. The process would always land you where you ought to be if you are prepared and ready for that next level, right? So it's very, very important. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you again. I can't thank you enough, not only for coming for the program, but for your vision for the profession and where you've taken it within a short span of your leadership. When you talk about competence, you talk about integrity, you talk about being professional. I think you're speaking about yourself, because I've seen that in everything that you have discussed with us this afternoon.
Thank you so very much.
Thank
I would
you.
just like to add a few words, if you don't mind, if we
Okay.
still have time.
Yes.
So
please.
I want to thank our members who have been paying their dues very dedicatedly. Thank you very much. We appreciate your commitment to ICSAN, and we plead for more, cooperation. For those who have not been paying, this is me saying, please pay your subscriptions. We need it. The Institute is as good as its members, and we know that we have very valuable members. And thank you for being good ambassadors of ICSAN out there. We're truly happy and proud of it, making ICSAN proud. I've not been paying. I'm also using this forum to solicit. Be active, in the activities of the Institute, because there are a lot of takeaways. You get to network, you get to, learn about the new and emerging, opportunities within the profession, on the same spot. And on the final note, I'd love to congratulate again the chairman of the Publicity and Advocacy Committee. We have bathed this again. Our members has agreed to also be our guests on this podcast. So watch the space. I won't tell you the dates we're going to be bringing him on board, but he will be coming. And I'm sure it will be a fantastic one. So thank you so much again for having me.
Thank you so much. We've had her, the president herself, that has kept true to her election, and even since she assumed office, your ICSAN, my ICSAN, our ICSAN. Thank you so